How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Manatee Gaming. We have an awesome new method to show you today. So this method is a method that came out a bit ago, and it was for the Daemonheim Archaeology, but when that one came out, it wasn't quite as good as it is now. So I'm going to run you through this method, and for all you who do not know about this method, it'll be an awesome way for you to boost up your dungeoneering tokens by a lot, and also your archaeology XP. I kind of said both at the same time there. Also, too, on starting December 15th, so in just a couple days, we're going to be starting doing our Christmas giveaways, which means every single day we're going to be giving away gold in the Discord server. All you got to do is just join in our Discord server and then look in the announcements to enter in our daily giveaways. So it's a really easy way for you to win a bunch of money. And yeah, that's really about it. So if you like that, then just go ahead and join our Discord server and get ready for those giveaways. They're going to start in just a couple days. So in this money-making method, well, I guess this actually is a money-making method. It makes pretty good money, and it also gives you a ton of archaeology XP and dungeoneering tokens. So overall, this is a really great way to progress your account. We're going to be gathering from the Dragonkin 5 collection. There are two different collections that you can do for this, but this one is going to be by far the fastest, so that's why we're going to focus on this one. This one only requires 4 different artifacts. 2 of them are level 73, 2 of them are level 77, so the level requirements are pretty low. And then, as you can see right here, if you look on the right side, the material costs, according to the GE mid, are 1354k, and then how much money we get back is equal to 1286k. Now, depending on what price you're paying for those, you can pretty much make that free, so you don't really pay too much attention to that. It's going to vary depending on the price of the materials about whether or not you make money, lose money, gain money, but most likely it's going to be very, very, very similar. When this method first came out too, this was much different. The material costs were dramatically higher, with some of the pieces going for like 18 or 20,000. So I myself did not do this method at all in the beginning because of the fact it was just a huge money sink. So now that it is much better, I decided to go ahead and make an updated guide for this for you guys. And also, if you've never seen this method before, then it's going to be a really great one for you to do. So let's go ahead and get on into it. So let's go ahead and do a really quick inventory setup. Now, the inventory per person is definitely going to vary because obviously people are going to have different gear. You guys are probably most likely not going to have the gear that I have, but it's okay. You just need to use like whatever the best thing you can and just try to get as close to what I've got here as possible. Also, depending on whether or not you are using flow state will also change some things, but I'll kind of go over that as we go. Let's go ahead and start with the worn equipment. So for starters, we need the Master Archaeology set. You probably already have that if you've done archaeology quite a bit, so that's probably one of the easier things to get. I am using a Luck of the Dwarves and a Grace of the Elves and a Brooch of the Gods, and that's simply because I want to be able to get those spirits and the blessings. You can also use a Scripture of Bic if you want to, if you are trying to be able to get some more clues. I'm not running it right now though because I'm not doing clues that actively, and I already have like a ton of clues, so I'm not too worried about it. And also the Scripture of Bic has gotten kind of expensive, so that's another reason why I'm not doing it. But anyway, you can totally do that if you want to. I'm also wearing the Archaeology Master Cape, which, like I said, you may not have this. I'm not going to keep saying that, but anyway, the Archaeology Master Cape is really great if you do have it. And then for our Matic, so you want to use the highest tier Matic you possibly have, and then ideally you're going to be using basically these abilities on here. It's going to be Hone 6 and Prosper, and then Imp Soul 3, Fortune 2. Now, some of these things I've got on here are kind of expensive and difficult to get. So if you do not have those exact perks, then just make sure that you get, as close to that as possible. Having your Imp Soul and your Honed are really important because those are going to be making this much faster and more AFK. And then also having Fortune is going to be really great too. If you don't have Prosper, it's okay. Prosper is just a way for me to get passive clues. So if you don't care about clues, then you can just skip that one. And then the Sash Brush. So this brush is going to be like something that's dramatically going to improve how good this method is, because the Sash Brush is going to just give you a ton of different benefits, like giving you a bunch of extra stuff and extra precision and everything. So it's really great if you have it. Also, this is not that expensive anymore. I think I very recently bought a brush because I wasn't doing archaeology for a while, so I just recently bought one and I only paid 120 million for it, which is definitely a lot better than they were going for before. The Hypno Wand is still over 400 million, so I'd say that 120 million is a really great price for this. Definitely 100% worth it. Also too, the Tony Matic, I would say, honestly, like the Matic is definitely good if you own it already, like if you just have a lot of money and you just feel like buying it. But I don't really know if this is ever going to pay for itself because It's quite expensive. I only paid 1.8 billion for mine, so that's also another reason why I still own it, is because now they're like almost 5 billion. I only paid 1.8, so I'd say at 1.8 it was a really great pickup. Would I spend 5? I don't know if I'd spend 5 in this, but anyway, if you have it, then it's great. It does have the highest precision in the game, so that's going to be really useful if you own it. Although I would say this method is not really that much worse without having, you know, like top tier stuff. So just go ahead and adjust accordingly. All right, for our inventory setup, we're going to need to bring our Ancient Elven Ritual Shard. This is because when we are using our Imp Soul, it's going to use up our prayer. So we want to make sure to have that on us at all times and make sure we never have to worry about running out of prayer. The high spec monocle is going to be really great to increase your precision. The Torpoline Sheet, or however you say this, tarpaulin sheet, well, I have no idea, but this increases your chance of finding soil by 10% while excavating. If you are using flow state, then you can ignore this sheet, but for the sake of this method and how much the money calculations and all that kind of stuff are, I am not using flow. So that way, I am using the tarpaulin sheet because this will give you more soil. So anyway, I do actually personally kind of prefer the non-flow state method, although the flow state method is going to give you more dungeoneering tokens and more XP and also like just more artifacts per hour. The cost of that though is you don't get any soil, which will dramatically decrease how much money you get per hour, and you also can't use these sheets. Next one is going to be a material manual. Material manual increases the chance of you finding materials by 10%. No matter what method you're doing, you definitely want to run this. It's really great. And then the last thing that I'm not using for these boosts, because I am already at 200 million, is going to be the one that gives you the 50% more XP, which I would definitely recommend using that if you need XP, but since I don't, it's not in here. Clue Carrier is definitely good to bring if you have Prosper on. If you don't have Prosper, then don't worry about this. And then the auto screener is a no-brainer if you are someone who actually is collecting soil. And then we've got the Water Fiend. So the Water Fiend is going to be something you really want to use because this will give you a bunch of extra materials, which is going to bring down your costs. And then it also has a chance of giving you another artifact, which is really, really good. Because the fact it gives you another artifact just makes it worth running in the first place, even if you don't care about the extra materials. And then you do want to bring some of your Water Fiend scrolls because these will send the inventory straight to your bank, which is really nice because if you're doing a lot of skilling, then you don't want to have to run back and forth and empty out the Water Fiend. So definitely bring those two. And then we need Sign of the Porter. So I have not included any costs of pretty much anything, actually. So anything that you're paying for in this group, by the way, at the end when I tell you how much money you're going to be making per hour while doing this, you just have to subtract your costs. The reason why I didn't include the cost into this is because some people get these Sign of the Porter for free by doing amlod and stuff like that, like pickpocketing amlod, and then other people will actually go and craft them, or some people will just go gather the energies, blah, 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 blah. Like there's so many different ways of getting these that it's kind of hard to know how much they cost, so I did not include the cost, but obviously subtract your cost. And this right here is what your inventory should be looking like though. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to get to the area. There's a few different ways to get there, but you just need to get to Daemonheim. So you can use the Ring of Kinship if you want to, or also you can just use your Archaeology outfit, which you probably already have, and then go ahead and teleport with number 7 to Daemonheim. Once you get to Daemonheim, then we are just going to want to run right over here and keep on going until we get into the Daemonheim area. Now in the Daemonheim area, there are 2 different spots you're going to be excavating. We have one in the north and then we have one in the west, and that is it. And it's really awesome because they are right next to the front door. It's pretty cool. So the banker is literally right here. So if you have your banker here, you can just go ahead and make a preset, and then that way that when you are needing to bank, then you just hit the preset, then you just simply surge back over to the room you're wanting to do, and then boom, you are done. It is super, super simple and is honestly probably the closest thing. This is probably the closest excavating thing that you'll end up doing that is close to a bank. I don't know of anything else where you can get a collection like this where it's this close to a bank. It's amazing. Like it's literally that far away. So while you are excavating in this room, here is the basic numbers you're going to be getting. You're going to be getting around 45,000 base XP per hour. Now that is going to change depending on your gear, levels, buffs, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's just a general idea of how much XP you're going to gain per hour while you're doing this. That is not the total XP per hour though, because that does not include actually making the artifacts or anything like that. So it's about 45,000 XP from just the gathering part of it. And also while you're doing this, you're going to be able to get An artifact, well, okay, so like I said, it really depends on your gear, but with my current setup and not using flow state, right? So if you're using flow state, it's gonna be faster than this, but by not using flow state, I get an artifact every like about 1 minute and 50 or 1 minute and 45 seconds, which ends up being about 8 collections per hour. That is about how much you end up getting, which is pretty awesome. So it's about 32 artifacts an hour. Like I said, it's going to vary depending on your buffs and everything, but let's just go ahead and count about 8 collections per hour. And you also are going to be getting about 47 to 50 materials per artifact, which is about 200 per collection, which is about 1600 per hour, which is pretty awesome. That's a lot of different materials that you can get from doing this. And also, by the way, when I was doing the calculations I'm using, I was literally sitting here and I was actually following the little wisp around. So these numbers are including actually following the wisp. If you're not following the wisp, these numbers are going to drop. So if you're a full-on AFK, then keep that in mind. Also, too, when it comes to the number of materials per hour or artifacts per hour, I did not include the Water Fiend or the extra artifacts from the Manatee or anything like that. That is assuming that you are not using Tonys and that you're not counting the Water Fiend. You're also not counting any extras you get in any other way. That is simply just from gathering them themselves. So it is definitely possible to get more than 32 artifacts in an hour, but that is just the base number is between 30 and 32 artifacts per hour. So let's go ahead and do some artifact restoration, also to show you some numbers, because I'm sure you want to know what the rest of the numbers are. So right here, looking at my storage, now I did have a few of these materials already, but what I did is I actually pulled out a bunch of them. So I had I pulled out all of them actually, so that I had none in there, and then did like an hour. This is not from an hour. I probably actually should have just recorded when I did that. But what I did is I wanted to see how many of the Orgone you get compared to the rest of these things, because basically the Orgone is the most expensive thing at almost 10,000 a piece. And then the rest of these are going to be something around like 3.5 to 3K or whatever. So with the gold rune being the lowest one. So essentially, when I'm trying to figure out how much money we're making per hour, we need to consider how many additional materials that we are going to be adding per hour. Now, most of these things in here, in order to restore them, have just under 70 pieces. And like I said, you're able to get about 50 materials, so about 70 materials per piece, and you get about 50 materials for every artifact you gather. And if you are going to be getting extra artifacts from those different things like Tonys and whatever, then obviously you're going to be falling a little bit more behind. But something very, very important to note though, is that even if we were to buy all of our materials, then we are simply able to just turn them in for the exact same amount of money, basically. Like, it's a very, very small loss. So for general stating, it's kind of like whatever you gather on your own. Like, so whatever materials you gather is basically what your profit is. You know what I mean? Because basically, if you were to gather all these artifacts and then have gotten no materials, you could buy the materials and get all your money back. So since that is the case, then we are basically looking at 1600 gathered per hour. And so about 1600 materials per hour is our actual profit. It's pretty awesome. And that comes to around 8 million per hour. Now, that's obviously going to depend on what materials you get, but since you do get mostly Orgone and you get very little gold rune, then that means that you are actually mostly getting the most expensive one, which is kind of confusing why this is the most pricey one. But anyway, you'd think that some of these other ones would be more, but whatever. I'm not going to complain, because that makes us around 8 million gold per hour. This number is going to change dramatically though. To keep in note also that I am doing this during the winter weekend, stuff like that. So this money making method will drop a little bit as far as the actual money you get, but the cost of doing this is going to remain about the same because, you know, since our materials and everything cost about the same as what you get back. So it's pretty cool. Once you've got your materials though, then you're simply just going to go over here and go ahead and restore. And restoration is going to give you about 23.3k XP per collection. And since we are able to do 8 collections per hour, this does make our total XP per hour without any kind of buffs. So that's important to know, that there are definitely some buffs that can affect your archaeology XP. So without any kind of buffs whatsoever, you're looking at about 232,000 XP per hour, which is pretty fantastic. Now, if you are level 120 dungeoneering, then you will be getting 16 large boxes per hour. and then at 120, that is 18,050 each, which ends up being about 288.8k Dungeoneering tokens per hour. So honestly, that makes this method pretty awesome, because the fact that we're getting almost 300k Dungeoneering tokens per hour, which actually can be pushed up to close to 360,000 per hour if you're using flow state. And then you get about 232,000 XP per hour, just general XP, which once again can be pushed up with flow state. And then your 6 to 8 million profit per hour just from your materials, which would be lower if you're using flow state. So it ultimately depends on whether you want the XP and everything, or whether you want the money. Because the fact that I am 200 million archaeology and I just want to AFK and chill on this, then that's another reason why I chose not to do flow state, just because the fact that I don't need the XP whatsoever. But anyway, guys, I really hope that this helped you out. When this first came out, it was nowhere near this great. You were definitely losing money doing this. So now that you're actually making money, I was like, okay, it's time to make this into a video and show you guys that this is actually a really good money-making method, as well as Dungeoneering tokens. I am probably going to sit here and go ahead and grind out some Dungeoneering tokens, because Dungeoneering tokens are super, super useful. Because if you go over to the shop over here, and go into the reward trader, there is a lot of things that you can be buying from the reward trader, and also being able to skip floors or whatever you want to do. And then if you want to be able to bump up your rings and be able to get further with that, there's also this other reward shop over here that does give you a ton of different things you can unlock, and also some awesome consumables. So if you are somebody who does a lot of like elite dungeons and stuff like that, then you can go ahead and get some cool things to boost your luck and stuff there, like the Lucky Charms, the Zamorak Undercity, all that kind of stuff. There's also teleports in here you can buy. There's Vital Spark and drop enhancers to get your Vital Sparks. There's just a ton of things that you can buy with Dungeoneering tokens. I mean, even you could just sit here and just farm these metallic dragon trinkets, which is kind of cool. But regardless, whatever you are planning to buy with your Dungeoneering tokens, I really hope this method helped you out and gave you a new chill way to get a ton of archaeology XP, a ton of money, and a ton of tokens. I will see you guys in the next video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and then join our Discord server. That way you can be notified when we do our Christmas giveaways. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.